Hello guys, I'm back. My name is Jeferson Costa. I'm a chemical process engineer with expertise in plant design, and be welcome to the chemical process engineer journey. I share with you my daily life as a chemical process engineer. I answer questions, do clarifications, and have a chat with you about what is important to the chemical process engineer knows to work with plant design. And if you follow me for some time, you will see that I am not at my house. You cannot see my bookshelf nor the regular environment that you are familiar with. I am in a hotel, and I'm in a hotel because I'm doing this in the following weeks. I am following some field activities, and I will talk to you about these activities a little bit. I have also two topics to share with you today. The main topics are about the asking questions in internet. I shared a poll in my Telegram channel in process, asking for the opinion, for the members' opinion related to a post or to a suggestion that Mr. Sean Moran did in one of his articles. So I will read them and I will talk to you my opinion about it, and I hope that you like it and it be useful to you. Moreover, I will talk a little bit also about environment conditions the when we are doing plant design. As you know, I have a mentoring program, and I have also a high seas training. And in this training, I give some homework for my students. And one of the questions was related to the environment conditions to do plant design. So based on that, let's start. Today, I will not join anyone in the video because I am in the hotel, okay? So the internet here is not too good, and because of that, I will not be able to join anyone. But starting with the activities that I'm doing here, I am not in Rio de Janeiro. As you know, I live in Rio de Janeiro, so I need to take a plane to go to another. And currently, right now, it's raining. And in some minutes, I need to take the car and go to the field to follow some field activities. And what is it? I am doing some kind of supervision related to we are preparing a test, and during this preparation, I need the company needs to have someone to supervise the team. And I'm here to do that because as a chemical process engineer, I am involved with the test, some of the procedures to do the test, about going to the field is related to the safety. Safety is very, very important to many companies. In this company, especially, he is getting the DuPont certificate of safety or something related like that. So it's very, very important that all employees comply with the safeties, because if for any reason I break any rule related to safety, they can invite me to go out from the company and do not return anymore. So it's not stressing, but we need to be aware, double our care about safety conditions. And one of the rules and that we need to get to our life also, but it's not so easy, is speak in the phone while you are walking. If I do that during while I am inside the company, I will receive a red card, and I will be out from the company. So this is one of the issues that we need to be aware when we are going to, especially when we are going to a customer, these activities in a customer field. And moreover, to do field activities, most often we need a hat, and my hat is in the car right now. We need the goggles or the safety glasses, we need boots, and I need also a special cloth here, fire resistance, and I am not with my jacket, but I will wear that in some minutes. And related to and one thing that is very, very important, and something that we don't learn when we are in the college or doing chemical engineering courses. When you go to the field, you go with with a goal, or you go with something set to you to be done. And to you are far away from your office or far away of your company, and the management wants to know the news or the updates from the field. So what I need to do here is a kind of diary. Here we call this as diário de obra, or every day that I finish my day, I need to do a small report or a summary report talking about what happened that day. Because when you go to the field, or when we are talking about plan design, we are always talking about scope, schedule, and cost. So I am here to be 2 weeks, and during these 2 weeks, there are some activities that must be done. And every day we have some plan to be completed, and the management needs to know if this plan is being completed or not. For instance, we need to do adaptations in some installations, and the schedule says that we need to do 2 adaptations per day, in order that from in the end of this week we are able to start the next phase of the test or of the project in the next week. So I go to the field, I take pictures, I verify if there was some kind of in this part of the process, we consider to do in the other part. In the end, it will not affect the results. So I need to do all this kind of report, or I need to do a summary of what happens in the day, in order to send to my superiors, or to the people that is not here with me. And it is very important, if you are an employee working to your company, I recommend you to have this kind of behavior, even though you are not asked for to do that, because this way you will have a kind of a diary, and you can write and register what you have learned that day, what kind of activities was done, and etc. And when you need to send a report to your boss, it will easier to you to summarize that. And if you are a third party or a consultant at the field, you need to justify the hours that you are in the field. So it is very, very common that the payment is associated with this daily activity summary. So we need to, when we need to send the bill for the consultancy, a summary diary, it's very, very important to use. Doing questions in internet. Last Saturday, I received a friend of mine, the Kelson Gando from Angola, and he suggests he encouraged people to do questions in the internet, and he is not wrong. I agree with them, but curiously, in some days later, I read another suggestion talking about not doing questions in the internet, and I will share it with you and just a little bit with you what is the pros and cons of each recommendation. Okay, so the Mr. Moron is a very experienced engineer. He acts in England, in United Kingdom, and he has 3 books. And he writes in one of his articles about pump selection, and a very, very good article. If you have the opportunity to read, do that. In the future, I will do a live session or record a video, especially to talk about this paper of him. But what he suggests to people: a final word of advice. If you don't understand what is present here or need to know more, I suggest that you talk to a pump supplier in private. The article is about pump selection. This is why he is recommending to talk to a pump supplier. think twice before you post on social media to ask for advice on the basics of pump selection. The advice you receive may not be correct, and your post may reflect badly on you. Asking questions in the internet can be good and can be bad. It depends on the level you are and the position that you feel. For instance, if you are an undergraduate student, eventually you can share some of your questions in the internet. And for me, the place and also depends on where you are sharing the questions, right? There are many places to share questions. I know that there is some forums specific for chemical engineering. I don't participate on that, so I don't have anyone to recommend to you. There are some groups on Facebook, private groups and open groups in Facebooks, divided by categories. So you can find, for instance, Aspen High Seas, and there is a group there led by my friend Emmanuel Ortega, the chemical engineering guy, where people usually share questions related to Aspen High Seas. And there are LinkedIn, for instance, is open social media and is very good for profession. And sometimes I see some kind of questions there. To verify why you are doing questions in the internet. Let's suppose that you are an undergraduate and you need to know, for instance, how to calculate the pump head, for instance. You are not so sure, you have a class with your chemical engineering course and you are not so sure how to do the calculation, or you just need to do a sheet to not study and verify how it is the results. You need to evaluate who kind of people will have access to that. Because if your teacher, for instance, have access to that, why didn't you ask him instead of asking others in the internet? So it is a point to evaluate. But he is your teacher. He don't have too much power upon you. I mean, he are not able to fire you, for instance. He eventually he will not he will not like it too much, but he cannot prejudice you or cannot take something from you because of that. But now think that you are a fresh graduate and you did the same kind of questions in the internet. Is your senior engineer will have access to that? Think about that. And if he has the access to that, can he let your life harder because of that? Imagine this, some of his partners see your question in the internet and talk to him. Aren't you teaching the young engineer why he is doing questions in the internet? Have you ever thought about that? So depending on the position you are, you need to evaluate the risks that you have when you are sharing or asking for help in the internet. And it's something hard to deal because we are dealing with people. It's proud, maybe is not the best word, but you are talking about people's proud. So if you are not asking him to give you advices and are asking the internet, there is something that is not matching in your relationship with him. So stay aware of that. And now, if you are a principal to senior engineer and you are doing freely questions in the internet, some questions that may address to you or to the company is why a senior engineer from the company A, B, or C is doing questions in the internet. They don't have a qualified team to solve this. Why he is going to the internet to ask for that? So that is another issue. So your manager, for instance, it can break the proud of your company, the proud of your senior engineer, for instance, so your manager, for instance. And that is the point that the Sean, Mr. Sean Morrow is aware you of. So that's the point. You need to evaluate if your question that you do in the internet will give you benefits or if it will prejudice you when you share that. When you are in a private group, it's a controlled environment. You, for instance, you are doing some kind of course, and inside of this course there are a small group where you can discuss with each other what's happening, what you are learning, and it can be in a chemical engineering course or it can be in a extension course, for instance. So it's common to people share experience between them or among them, and with that have a question, someone answer, and in an environment, a controlled environment. But when you go to the LinkedIn to do questions, it is open to everyone, and you are exposing yourself to everyone, and you need to verify what kind of impacts it can get in your image, in your personal marketing, in your knowledge, okay? Because I hire a junior engineer and I am supposed to teach him what I know about chemical process engineering, plant design. And if I go to the internet, to LinkedIn, because the LinkedIn is the best business social media, and I see him doing questions that he should address for me first, I will get at least disappointed related to that. Okay, so it's something that's very, very important to you. Take care, take care. And so in this way, I agree with Mr. Morrow. Partially, I agree. I think that it's possible to do questions in the internet if you know how to do that, especially when you show that you understand the subject and you let people do comments on that. And of course, that when we are talking about a specific equipment, if you can get in touch with the equipment supplier, is the best thing that you can do. And I always do that when I have some kind of issue related to pumps, or if I have some kind of issues related to equipment that is new to me. So I prefer to get in touch with the vendors because they have catalogs. Sometimes they have technical documents, or they have specific papers related to that document. And when I have a senior engineer also here, a consultant, that sometimes we talk to each other to clarify things. So try to solve your questions first in your house, in your home, and the home is your environment, the business environment, before you go outside to asking others. Okay. In any case, as I always told you, any questions that you have, you can send to me. You can use LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and etc. And I do my best to answer, and I try to do this in a public way in order to help as much people as possible. If you have questions, guys, let me know. I am here at my right side with my YouTube channel and at my left side with the Instagram. So if you have questions, just let me know. And let me see here who is here today. I have been chemical engineer. It's with me today. And Tahir, it's with me here today in the YouTube. And I have some known people here in Instagram also, Sajin Cool and Felipe Usleal. Nice, very, very nice to have you here with me, guys. And the next topic, or the last topic of today, as I told you, in some minutes I need to take the car to go to the field. I will talk about environment conditions. And this question I received from a student in my Aspen High Seas program, training program. And we are developing this model, pipe sizing activities. And one thing that is important to define in the Aspen high season when you are doing the pipe sizing is the heat leak or the heat exchanger, the heat transfer of the system. And the heat transfer of the system will depend on the environment conditions, because you have the pipe segment, you have the part that where in the Aspen high season we will add information to the pipe, so you define the material, you define the size, pressure drop conditions. If we are able to reach the customer specification based on the project conditions. And when I start a project, the first thing that I do, I already have the requirements of the customer. I have the raw material specification. The first thing that I do is look for the environment conditions where the plant or where the process will be installed. Why I do that? Because if I will install something in Rio de Janeiro, is different from installing something in Canada, or it is different than installing something in South Africa, or installing something in the Russia, for instance. Because depending on the environment conditions, my material will not support the environment conditions. For instance, here in Rio de Janeiro, if we reach 0 Celsius degree here, everyone will be killed, because the minimum temperature that we have here during the winter is not less than 15 Celsius degree. So if for some reason we reach less than 15 Celsius degree in Rio de Janeiro, everyone will be killed, because we are not familiar with that. However, if we are talking about Canada, north of Canada, we can get much less than minus 20 Celsius degree there. It's normal. So I cannot use the same kind of material. Let's suppose that I'm talking about a gas stream, and my gas stream here in Rio de Janeiro, I can use carbon steel, and eventually in the Canada, if I don't have any kind of insulation, I can reach less than minus 29 Celsius degree. So I need to use stainless steel, because the material will support different minimal design temperatures conditions. So how I can avoid using stainless steel in the Canada, in Canada? One of the options is using insulation, because this way I will prevent the environment from getting straight access or in straight touch with the carbon steel material, and I can let my project cheaper, because stainless steel is much expensive than carbon steel. So I ask them to verify with the conditions that I suggest, with the conditions that he looked in the internet, based on that location, what kind of behavior should be done. And when one of the suggestions that you have, or one of the recommendations that we have, and you can get from the ASHRAE handbook, I forgot how is the full name, but the ASHRAE is related to when we are talking about heat exchanging with the environment. We use the ASHRAE to define the cooling tower conditions, to air cooler conditions. Usually we use ASHRAE. And one of his recommendations is to use the 95% of the hottest day, or the 95% of the coolest day as design conditions. Because this way you will have 95% of your system running, and it's much often any process, industrial process, in the chemical petrochemical process, run 100% of the time. We always have some kind of availability planned. So I talk about availability in one of my videos in the YouTube. So if I have 12 to 7,860 hours in a year, it's planned or it's expected that, for instance, depending on your process, 95% of the time it will be running. The other ones will be to do the maintenance, to deal with the some kind of planned maintenance or stop for some kind of inspection and etc. So this way usually we don't get when we are doing plan design, we don't get the highest recorded value in terms of environment conditions. For instance, I will do an air cooler for a compressor, and I have in a history, I have a peak of 50 Celsius degree, and it happened one day in 10 years, for instance. We don't use this information to do the design conditions of our equipment. What we do is get the average 95% of the time that we have the highest condition, the highest temperature conditions. And why we are using this in this example? Because if we are talking about cooling, the cooling when we are using cooling tower is related to the wet bulb. So as much the wet bulb is higher, the higher will be my cooling media, and it impact what kind of cooling media you will choose in your design. And when we are talking about air coolers, we are talking about dry bulb. So if my dry bulb is high, dry bulb is always higher than wet bulb. So if based on dry bulb or wet bulb, the cooling media, the cooling condition my process is above what my needs, I will need to look for other kind of source of energy removal. Okay, so I will need to install a chiller, or I need to evaluate if it's possible to do some kind of heat integration, and etc. So what's the point here? Well, the point is that you need to evaluate what are the ambient conditions when you are doing your project. If you have extreme conditions, you need to evaluate if that extreme conditions are real, it's normal, or it's continuous for some period of time, or if it's only peak of information. If it's peaks, usually we don't use as reference for design. If it's can happens for 1 month, or for instance, you may consider that as information for your plan design. In this way, you will have a project that will comply with all the requirements for the process and be able to comply with your availability planned for production. And you will not let your system too expensive, because if you are designing for extreme conditions, it will need to prepare for sure, or it will be bigger, or you need to use better materials or different materials that are more expensive. And one thing about talking bigger equipment is that eventually in normal operations they will not perform well, because they was not designed accordingly. So guys, this is it. I need to go in some minutes. Can you tell, I have a question here in YouTube, Chief, can you tell something about gravity drain in line sizing? What I can tell about gravity drain, usually we have some criteria to do line sizing, and we have criteria related to pressure drop and length. We have criteria related to velocity or superficial velocity inside the tubes. And we have also another criteria that's not too often, is not to use it too often in the pipe sizing, but is used to calculating nozzles in equipment that is related to density and velocity per square or something like that. So when we are talking about gravity pipe sizing, usually we consider a velocity, maximum velocity of 1 meters per second. Of course, it will depend on the kind of fluid that you are using and the location that you are using, the length also between point A and point B. But in general terms, in general rules, you should start with a maximum velocity of 1 meters per second and verify the pressure drop calculation to verify if it's possible to have your liquid from going from one point to another. And when we are talking about gravity pipe sizing, remember that your worst case is when you have, if you are talking about a level, when you have the minimum level. Okay, you should consider your calculations with the minimum level because the pressure, the potential pressure will be in your last level, and with that this displacement of your liquid will be slower. If your level is at the maximum level, the pressure, the potential pressure will be higher and your fluid will dislocate faster because you have a higher differential pressure between points. Okay, guys, so this is it. I like it, and I'll see you soon in the next live session. I hope that Saturday I will return with a special subject to talk to you in my YouTube channel, Jeff, the chemical process engineer and plan design. So bye bye, guys. See you.